Please note that the interview does include spoilers for season 3 of The Lincoln Lawyer if you haven't watched yet. We are so excited to have you with us. You have just been, just congratulations on the reception that you've received with this role. It's been amazing. Everybody loves Eddie. So,
Right?
it's just awesome. So I'm curious, first off, how was Eddie described for you in the audition? And can you share what scene you auditioned with?
Of course. So Eddie was described as being like a rock-esque kind of physique, this
Okay.
really big guy. And then you get that, and then you get the scene where it's his first scene where he's explaining to Mickey about what he did and how he didn't feel bad, but at the same time he's kind of like, but I'm gonna have a record, all these kind of for me clues that like, oh, Eddie's going to be a badass. Technically, he's going to be
Yeah.
like a tough dude.
Yeah.
He's sick and tired of being treated like this. So there was like this idea of leading into this very stereotypical like you know Latin kid getting in trouble.
Hmm.
And so I was going to play him really hard and really like like mean. And then I was like, you know what? Hold on. I got a couple of like suggestions, and I was like, maybe instead of doing that, I'll just throw myself into it because I'm not built that way. I'm not built that way, both physically and also like, yeah, I can act and go there if I needed to, but it's not very true to me. And so I was like, let's bring him closer to myself. And then in the callback, which I was like, okay, yes, they're looking for me then technically. Right? It's kind of the attitude you go into it with. One of the notes was like, "Can you put a little bit more Allyn in it?" And I was like, okay,
Wow.
yes, let's go.
That's like the
Let's do
biggest
that.
compliment ever.
That's like the greatest note I've ever received in my life. And luckily, I received it now in my life rather than when I was like 17, because I would have been like, "You tell me what that means."
Yeah,
What does
yeah.
bring Allyn to it? So yeah, super exciting, and it was also kind of a great moment for me to be like, no, I don't have to lean into these that I kind of put on myself as well as like
Sure.
to think that like, yeah, I have to stick to what I think they want to see. It's like,
Mhm.
no, that sorry that the question is my answer is going so far, but
No,
I
it's
think that
very
it's
helpful.
yeah, it's incredible, and it's important to be like, there's so many versions of us, there's so many people, they're so very different,
Yeah.
and just between Manuel and I, are we're both Latinos, and we're both coming at this, and we're both in scenes together, and we are two Latino men like who aren't playing the stereotypical character, and it's
Right.
just so fun. It's such a breath of fresh air. um
Yes.
and yeah, and I loved it that Eddie's becoming somebody that everybody's just kind of like, oh, he's so cute, he's such a sweetheart, and it's like, he is, I love him too, that's so good. It came across.
Awesome.
Did you say what scene you auditioned with by
So that
chance?
was actually the scene. The scene was the first scene. So that the first
Oh, the
two
first scene.
scenes outside of the courtroom. So the one in right outside of the courtroom with Mickey, where Eddie's explaining what happened and his situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the first time that Eddie's in Holler and Associates with Izzy and with Lorna, and we walk in, and he gives me the job. Like, those were the two
Oh, okay.
scenes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, which is great because I was like, okay, this is from the get. We
This is
kind of
the
get to decide.
introduction. Yeah.
Yeah, we get to decide who he is and what we're going to go with, where we're going to go with him. And so coming into the first day of shooting, I kind of had a really great idea of who Eddie is initially, and then we kind of grow from there.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sorry, I just wanted to verify that because
Yeah,
just
definitely, definitely. Yeah, yeah. And he had such great material, but it was a blessing. It was a good thing that those were the like, you don't always get that when you're auditioning. You don't really get those juicy scenes where you're like, oh, okay, I understand who we're gonna be from the get.
Yeah. Awesome.
how early on did you learn of Eddie's ultimate fate? Just out of curiosity.
I did the math.
Oh, okay. He's a smart guy, Mike. He
I did the
gets it.
math. I did the math. My wife and I were sitting there, and I got the offer, and initially it was 6 out of 10 episodes, and we're like, okay, if he's doing this important job, he's getting hurt. Like he's gonna get like there's a break. And then it turned into 7. We ended up getting 7 out of 10. So we're like, okay, cool. Maybe not. But yeah, they let us know pretty early on. I went in for a day of photography to do the Lamborghini scene, and they were like, you know what happens, right? That was their message the same way. It was kind of like, you can kind of do the math, right? You figured it out. And I'm like, yeah. But it was every single day coming in and being like, so I have an idea.
Oh, there you go.
Here's my twist.
I have a few notes.
Yeah. If you guys are open to it, I'd love to kind of have a conversation, maybe some dialogue about what's going on.
I would have been on that campaign, I can tell you. So
thank you. And I love it. There's so many people. I've actually seen a bunch of other conspiracies online that I'm like, yes.
Oh, there you go.
Like, forward it to Netflix. Like, that's good.
Yes. Let's do that. Well, we didn't have it in our list of questions, but since you mentioned doing the photography for the Lamborghini scene, what was that like? I've never been in a Lamborghini, so.
Oh, so I consider myself relatively. I'm like a lanky dude. Like I'm tall. I'm a little bit lanky. I'm normal tall, I would say. Not so that people were like 6'7" are like, wow, you're short. I'm like, okay, that's fair. But I got in and I was kind of like laying on the floor. So that's first of all, like for me, like, oh no, this is this is comfortable when you're inside, but getting in and out is kind of like, whoa.
Sure.
But I also asked them, like, please don't let me go forward. Like, please don't have the car because I don't want to be responsible for this. Because I've heard horror stories. I've heard people like really not knowing, because I don't know what to expect if I revved an engine or a Lamborghini, what the response is going to be like. And I'm also not trying to, first day on set, have a huge accident with an expensive car, and that becomes my legacy. So I was like, let's keep it. I'll act like we're going fast.
There you go.
And now that I feel more confident, now that I've done it, now that I've even driven the Lincoln itself, which is also quite a difficult car to get around, because it's so spacious and it has so much, so many buttons and so many things. But also you have Manuel in the back seat, so there's a lot of high stakes. I feel more confident. So if they gave me another chance to the Lamborghini, let's go.
Take it.
Yeah. It just happened to be my first day, and I was like, we're not making that mistake.
Gotcha. Well, we've talked about obviously how amazing Eddie was, and we've heard him described as a big puppy dog, a teddy bear. He was kind, cheerful, supportive, enthusiastic, all these awesome things. What do you think may have been one of Eddie's flaws?
No, I think that Eddie's biggest fault is hard to find, because I love him so much, and I don't want to be like, I don't see any.
It's hard for me to imagine one.
Yeah, and it's not just because I think that he's, that I love him so much and I have so much respect for him and the opportunity that he gives given me right now. But I think it's hard to be critical. Maybe just trusting. I mean, because I feel like the good thing about Eddie is that there's no ego there. And that's what I love about it, is that even when he's kind of like pushing back, or when he has his opinions, or when he feels very strongly about something, the next scene, he's like open to it. That he sits there and he mulls it over, and he kind of like really kind of considers and goes, oh, you know what? There must be a reason, let me try to get into that person's, see it through this person's perspective. There's that big scene where he's, kind of trying to figure out why we're going to defend somebody who makes us look bad, with Hector Moya, like, why are you putting so much of what your skill and your, what you do best, Mr. Holler, like behind somebody who is so damaging. And so it pretty much, and rightfully so, deserves to be here in one way or another. So even in such a strong opinion that I think is really fundamental to him, because he's dealing with the same issue, having just, been, in the consequence of that, like dealing with the consequence of actions of other people who put a bad name on somebody who looks like me. He's sitting there taking it in for a while, and then he comes back and apologizes, and he's like, you're right, like, you must know what you're doing, and I apologize for like pushing back on that. So I think he's just like, I think that but it is probably that he's just kind of too optimistic. Maybe he needs to be a little bit more guarded. But that's just to answer the question. Really,
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
mind, flawless. Eddie
Flawless.
is great.
That's perfect. I love it.
You talked earlier about putting kind of yourself into the character. What kind of things do you have in common with Eddie?
Oh, so here's a fun one. Early on, they were like, because during callback, they kind of threw in that he was going to crochet, and I was like, that's incredible. That kind of helped inform me even more that I can gave me a little bit more access to him. And that's because I'm a crafty kind of a person. I love crafting. It's kind of like I need to keep my fingers moving, and I need to keep my brain kind of stimulated in like a little creative way. And during lockdown and everything, you picked up a million skills, and one of them was needlepoint. And I was like, let's do this. Let's just try to have something to do. So the moment they were like, oh, he crochets, and they asked me, they're like, do you want to learn how to crochet? I said, absolutely.
Yes.
And production got me the whole thing. Like they gave me everything. They gave me the yarn, all of the hooks. And then I even got a teacher. I even got somebody to teach me, and I got a bunch of video instructions. And so I actually crocheted every single day from that point on, as soon as they asked me, which was like the third day of filming. And I was in between, because it's easier when you're when you're like in between scenes and the setups, to kind of have something that you can do really quick, like a little task that you can kind of walk away from and come back to, than reading a book for me, because I would be reading a book and I'd read the same line like 5 times, and they're like, actually, Allyn, we need you to come over here because we need to double check your mic battery. We need to do this. And, do you want me to get you this? Or hair, let's run over here and make sure the hair is okay. And last look, so there's so many things going on, even while you're sitting and resting, waiting to film, that it's easier to kind of just answer it while you're kind of doing a crochet, and you're kind of making something. So I made a couple of things while we were filming.
Fantastic.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And that's kind of like something that me and Eddie have in common. We just, we love those little things.
Quick learner. Love it.
Yeah.
What do you personally think of Eddie's diet regimen?
I hate it. It's terrible. It's unsustainable. Honestly, I wish that I had, we did the process, and it was kind of like, after booking it, it was like 3 weeks or 2 weeks before in my initial day of work. And I kind of wish that if I could have all of these things happen again, but they gave me the answer much earlier, like the process started much earlier where I could have really got into it. I think I would have had, it would have been, hard and difficult, but it would have been it would have been a lot of fun, because I feel like I just kind of ran into it and just jumped right in. Because of more research and kind of got really into like the nettle leaf and the stuff, and really get into like what he's drinking and get really like specific. But yeah, no, it's unsustainable. I'm not.
can't do that.
If I'm not filming, I'm not doing it. Yeah.
That's funny.
That's awesome. Have you been recognized as Eddie out in public when you're walking around?
I have. That shocked me. I knew it. I knew it would happen. I was shooketh. I was like, wait a second. Yeah, it was really cool. I got recognized actually twice recently. And I was with my wife, and they came up to me the first time, and then they came up to her the second time. And they're like, did he play Eddie?
That's so funny.
It's so sweet too. And everyone's, has pretty much the same message. But it's really, really sweet. I was like, oh man, this is crazy. I didn't think that would happen, and that would happen so quickly too. It was like about the first time was 2 days after the first, it first aired. So like on a Thursday, it aired on Thursday, so it happened like on a Friday or Saturday.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, that's really quick turnaround.
You've made an impact when that happens, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
You and Manuel had such great chemistry through your characters. What do you attribute that to?
The downtime.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, I think it's easy, and I think everybody can kind of see that Manuel is like such a cool and charismatic dude. Very easy, and he's hilarious on set. And so, you go through it, and on my end, this is somebody who I admire. This is somebody whose career I admire. This is an actor who I'm like, not only is he a great actor, but he's doing a lot of great things for Latinos, and he's like, I wanted to work on the show because of what it represents to me and what it represents for the community. which blessed I got the opportunity to do that. So I'm here kind of like, okay, let's be cool. You know, we are co-workers, which is mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
And him and everyone in that on that set and everyone, like all the crew, the cast, everybody's so warm. It is the kindest set ever. And it's so awesome because they all just jump in and embrace you. That you know, once I kind of felt like, okay, I'm cool, we're great. Then you can start laughing and you start joking, and then you start joking in between scenes, and you start joking with the people like as we're setting up and stuff, and then that kind of just lends itself on camera. And I think that it, you know, Eddie's really trying to like keep it cool as well because he admires Mickey and Mr. Holler so much. And I think that was very easy for me to kind of tap into because I was doing the same thing. I was the whole time like, let me impress him. Let me do this thing to make sure that he sees that, like, you know, that it was, you know, he did it. He made a good choice picking me, you know, things like that.
Right.
Playing Mickey's driver, you put you in or placed you in so many scenes with many different actors. Who's the most fun off camera to sit with, be with?
Most fun off camera. So somebody who is forever near and dear to my heart, and I will be so grateful to for eternity. And it's all of them, but really Becky did something for me that was just like, oh man, I don't know how to repay that, and I hope that I can kind of give that to somebody else. So my wife and I, during this process, we're expecting our firstborn, and she was like, I heard that you're expecting a baby. And I was like, yeah. She's like, I have a couple. And I was like, I heard. And then she kind of initiated this conversation that I kind of badly wanted to have with her about all things parenting as an actor. And also just as simple as like, I need a pediatrician. And, you know, I'm not ready for that. Like I've had, there's too many options. Like, how do I narrow it down? And she's like, here's who you need to go to. And because of her, yeah, we have a pediatrician who we love, who we're like so happy with.
Nice.
And so, yeah. And there's that part of her who's that. And then there's another part of her who's easy to talk to and funny and like engaging. And when we're all, so my favorite scenes to film, period, were all of the Holler and Associate scenes because everybody was in the room together. You had Manuel, you had Angus, Becky, Jazz, you had us all like just sitting around. And I just got to be a part of it. I'm here crocheting, just listening to everything and jumping in where I could, and just like, this is so awesome. This is like what I imagined it would be like. Times 10. They're such a family, and they were so warm and welcoming. So
awesome.
Yeah, those scenes. So all of them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, congratulations on having a newborn. That's very exciting.
Thank you so much.
Did you have the opportunity to meet Michael Conley?
Oh, I did.
Awesome.
Yes. But when you're on set, you are constantly being introduced to a million people.
Okay.
And like, I wish that was an exaggeration. It's not. Like, you're literally like like you're getting mic'd and you're like reaching out, you're like, hey, welcome, hi, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh man, you saw that? Oh man. And so you're taking it in, and so I saw him and I was like, that's but then we kept going, and then I went back to my note and I was like, that's Big Boy, right? That's like that's like the one,
man.
Like, yeah. That's Michael Conley. And I was like, okay, I wish I would have like really fucking.
I've only met Michael on a couple of occasions, and Mike recently met him at one of his book signings. But that's one of the things I've noticed and heard from people, that he's just so unassuming and down to earth. I'm almost not surprised that it didn't click at first. You know, he's just this normal, awesome guy. So
yeah.
That makes sense.
Definitely went through this whole process of like, I know you're important. You look incredibly familiar, but I'm juggling 5 different things, and someone's putting hairspray in my hair, and they're tapping me in the face, and I'm like, I feel very like
there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
I wanted to just throw out just one quick thing, and maybe just an off-scripted question I was thought about on the fly here. So when I met, he did a Q&A at the book signing, and one of the things he mentioned was how quiet set gets when he goes to visit, because everybody's like, oh my gosh, he's here, you know, type of thing, you know. So that was kind of funny to hear that when you were saying that, you know, that it's like, is that him? Is that really him? Type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, the boss is here, but he doesn't feel like himself as a boss. He likes showing up just to kind of see how things are rolling. But the off-scripted question was, what was it like to get in the makeup after the accident of the Lincoln?
Oh, so we got into the makeup, and I was like, oh man, this is really weird to see, to like kind of experience myself. But I've been in theater and stuff, so we've done like accidents, we've done things like that. So you put it on yourself, you've had other people put it on you, so you kind of seen like fight makeup kind of a situation. But then really what was jarring and like kind of took me for a loop was walking up to the Lincoln when it was upside down. Spent months working in there, working it on set, driving it around the street. Like it became like a safe place for me. Like there's times where I'm waiting outside of it, and then during a cut, I would go in and just sit and then be on my phone and hang out. And it became a very safe place for me. So for it to be turned upside down like that, actually, I had like a huge it like rocked me. Seeing all like the set just inside flipped, all of his paperwork, everything that I kind of like touched and handled, and so that was really weird. And then there was a person inside there who was dressed just like me and kind of had the same body type, and was being dragged himself out of it, and that kind of like
shook
me. Yeah. And then you see it and you're like, that's even weirder.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good question, Mike. That's interesting.
I was curious about that because I noticed there's like the gash on the head and stuff like that. So I was just curious how that all.
Yeah, so they did a couple of them, but then in post they went ahead and they put that, and that gash is so real that I was like, wait, did I have?
Did I do that?
Yeah.
And honestly, you wouldn't have been able to do anything if I had that, So it made sense that they kind of went in and touched that up, and it came up looking so gnarly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
Well, I just remember I almost shed a tear because when it got to that final scene of episode 5, my wife can even attest. I'm like, son of a biscuit. I was hoping they wouldn't kill off the driver in this season, but so
you and me both, and everybody.
Yeah. I'm disappointed that it wasn't a full tear though. Like just almost like.
Maybe there was an actual tear. So
that's what I'm talking about. Your wife leaned over and went, I got you, babe.
Yeah. I think something left the eye. I do. Yes.
But well, it's like you're a lovable character. Eddie was a lovable character. I fell in love with him. In the halfway through that court scene where Mickey asked him if he's a gambling person. He's like, no, not really. And it's like, well, you picked the wrong place. So it's just kind of we all fell in love with Eddie. A lot of us did. So
for sure.
But onto the poll question, I just wanted to ask. So since you said that that Eddie's diet regimen is not sustainable, are you a fan of a French dip sandwich like they talk about in episode 2?
Honestly, I think I've only had it once before, but I'm game. Anything that stacks meat like that and then makes it like soppy and stuff, I'm in 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Our poll question is kind of like, do you prefer Cole's or Philippe's? So if you've only had it once, where do you get one from?
I haven't had one, but I would say I'm gonna go with Philippe's just to be like, ooh, they went to Cole's.
Yeah.
Just stir it up.
If you ever get the Philippe's, get the hot mustard on the side, but a little goes a long way, just to give you a heads up on that. So
thank you. Yeah, because I overdo it sometimes, and then I'm like, all right, well, now I have.
Now you're committed.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Now I got the shakes, and I'm like, my nose is running. And I'm doing this.
Do a little sample before you put it on the sandwich, just as a heads up.
That's really good advice.
Well, thank you again for spending time with us. This has been the highlight of my day, and we're just so excited to share more about you with the listeners and the fans. So
thank you. Wonderful questions. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with me.
Awesome.
Really love it.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to be watching for whatever you do and supporting you. So
good
luck with everything.
Appreciate it. Likewise.
All right. Take care.